Danke. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our little Madhurya Kadambini seminar, and we are in day 6, and today we talk about the stage of Bhava. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Paham Langde Kirim Yatkripadamaham Vande Shri Gurudinitarinam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So now we are really entering into a sphere or stages which are far beyond what we, I guess most of us have achieved yet. But we are striving to one day come to these platforms, and we're talking about Bhava. And Bhava it's interesting. There is, in the Nectar of Devotion, we have description of 3 kinds of Bhakti. There is sadhana bhakti, there is bhava bhakti, and there is prema bhakti. And you understand, prema bhakti is the ultimate. That's what we all achieve, prema bhakti. And sadhana bhakti means at the stage where we're still trying to become devotees. And of course, within sadhana bhakti, there is 2 kinds of bhakti. There is Vaidhi bhakti and there is Raganuga bhakti. And we start with Vaidhi bhakti, and then the more we advance, then we enter more and more into Raganuga bhakti. But then there is this, between the sadhana bhakti and prema bhakti, there is the bhava bhakti, a stage in between. And that's interesting because in some way, you could say, well, why not just having 2 stages, sadhana stage and then the perfection? But Bhava is there in between, because when we speak of Bhava, we cannot speak of sadhana anymore. At the same time, it's not yet full Pream. It is between. And Bhava is actually already, at the stage of Bhava, love of God is already manifesting, but it's not yet mature fully. And we'll have a look at Bhava, of course, from the Madhurya Kadambini. But then I also will talk from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because in Nectar of Devotion we have a whole chapter on Bhava, given by us from Srila Prabhupada, so we also like to look at that. Okay, so Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur speaks about Bhava and starts with this statement. When Asakti achieves its utmost maturity, it is called Rati, or Bhava. Bhava is the budding stage of the 3 potencies of the Lord Satchit Ananda Swarup Shakti, Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini. So, budding, we have the picture there. No, budding is like the Knospen. No? Yeah, budding is like when the flower is not yet opened. It's Knospen. And then the fully opened flower, that's the perfection. In other words, at Bhava, one is entering into the Shuddha Sattva platform. And these potencies are just starting to manifest like the rays of a dying sun. It is thus the blossoming flower of the desire creeper of Bhakti. So, yes, we know the Lord has a Satchidananda form full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And then we have these Shaktis, Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini Shakti, these energies of the Lord. And these potencies start to manifest, or in other words, the sadhakas now leaves the realm of the three gunas and enters beyond. Here we talk about transcendental level. And it says here, at Bhava one is entering into Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva, pure stage of Sattva, which is free from Raja and Tama. And that's why it's transcendental. It's not anymore part of the material world. And so in these potencies, the Lord's energies, they start to manifest. In other words, we are this our true spiritual nature starts to, manifest. And here it says that it is thus the blossoming flower of the desire creeper of Bhakti. So Bhakti Lata, the process of devotional service is compared to a creeper, a plant. And in the beginning we have the Bhakti Lata Bija, the seed which is given to us by Sri Guru. And then by the process of Shravanam Kirtanam, this plant is cultivated and grows. And so at this stage of Bhava, what happens, that creeper starts to manifest flowers. And what flower is that? Or flower, and then sometimes it's also said the ultimate goal of that, or the ultimate result is actually prema phala. It's also described as fruit. The fruit of divine love, which then manifests. But here on Bhava stage, when we work with the analogy of flower, this is how it looks. Bhava is the budding stage, and then Prema is the fully manifest stage. So in that sense, Bhava is already, if you have attained Bhava, that love of God is already starting to manifest. But it's not yet fully established like that. Right. And His Grace Adi Purush Prabhu, our VIG teacher, he gave another interesting analogy in regards, maybe a little materialistic. In some ways, it's Lakshmi also. Lakshmi Devi. So the example is given, okay, this is Swiss francs, right? So we have the nice notes, colorful. So is there a difference between the 1,000 Swiss franc note and the 5 Rappen? We call it Rappen, the smallest coin. Is there a difference, or is there no difference?
In one sense, not different, in the sense that it's money.
Yeah, in one sense, both is money. With both you can purchase something. With 5 Rappen you maybe buy a chewing gum at the kiosk maximum. And with 1,000 Swiss francs you can do many things. But it's both money. It's a way to pay something. But obviously one is very small and one is very big. So similarly, the idea is that Bhava is in that sense already a form of love to God, but it's in the beginning stage. Another example which comes from Srila Vishnuvat Chakravarti Thakur is that Pream is like the fully effulgent sun, and Bhava is just the first rays of sunlight that are coming. And again, sun rays and sun is non-different. At the same time, it is also different. If I say, the sun has entered my room, the sun shines, and I feel a little warm, maybe 25 degrees. But if actually the sun planet would have entered into my room, I would be burned and everything would be burned. So there's a difference between the sun planet entering my room or the sunshine. And at the same time, it is sunshine the rays of the sun is not different from the sun. So that's the analogy that are given. Okay, and then it means the blossoming flower. Its outer luster, the glans, outer luster, is the quality of sudurlabha, which means rarely achieved, and the inner luster is moksha lagut krit, deriding even the conception of liberation. So those of you who have studied the nectar of devotion systematically, I'm sure you're familiar with these terms, because there is 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. Kleshagni, Subhadha, Moksha Lagutta Krit, Sudurlabha, Sandrananda, Visheshatma, Sri Krishna Kasha Nichasra. So these are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, and the first 2 we also heard in the beginning. On the first day we spoke about Klesh Agni and Shubhata. Klesh Agni means, someone remembers Klesh Agni? Yeah, all the inauspicious things, the kleshas are all destroyed, like ignorance and the false conception of Einmai. So all this inauspiciousness is removed, and Shubhada means the opposite, all auspiciousness arises. And that is manifesting even in the beginning of our spiritual life. And then that's the first 2, and that's basically on a stage of sadhana bhakti. But then here, the stages 3, 4 refer to the stage of bhava bhakti. We mentioned these 3 stages. So at this stage of bhava bhakti, the first 2 are still there, but then in addition, moksha lagut krit and sudurlabha also become manifested. And moksha lagut krit means that we derive such deep satisfaction in the process of bhakti that we kind of laugh at the idea of liberation. In a sense, we reject the idea of liberation. There is we can't be, we are not much impressed anymore by the idea of liberation, because the pleasure and the satisfaction that we receive from bhakti is so much greater. And Sudurlabha is just a characteristic that it actually very rarely achieved. Bhakti is very rare. That's one aspect that Srila Vishnu Thakur explains. And then also it says here, in the states of wakefulness, sleep and deep sleep, his intelligence becomes firmly fixed as the pilgrim on the path, his remembrance of Krishna. Okay, that's also a poetic way. And then the self-conceit, like the self-deception, or how to translate it in German? The self of the sadhana, like the identification, of the sadhaka, seems as if it enters into a siddha-deha, spiritual identity, suitable to his desire to serve the Lord, and his material body remains almost as if he has left it. Okay, these are some symptoms of bhava. And as I mentioned, now we are entering into a realm where we certainly just speak from theoretical understanding, not from realization. I mean, even before, but certainly here also that. But the idea is that we have these different stages of consciousness. There is the stage where we are awake, like right now, then sleep and deep sleep. In the Bhagavatam, we find these descriptions also of different levels of awareness and consciousness. But on a level of bhava, what happens is that in any kind of awareness or stage, the intelligence is always firmly fixed on thinking of Krishna. In other words, whether we are awake or whether we are sleeping or deep sleep, we are always fixed on Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai. And there is many stories by Prabhupada disciples, how they kind of, servants who saw how they wanted to see Prabhupada never sleeps, and we want to see what happened. Does Prabhupada sleep? And they observed him, and Prabhupada was laying there, and then they kind of going, and then Prabhupada opening his eyes, like Prabhupada, yeah, he lay down to kind of sleep, but actually on a platform where Prabhupada was, of course, a pure devotee, the intelligence is always fixed on Krishna. Yes, the body maybe needs some rest, but actually, like the Goswamis, there's almost no need for sleep. And again, here Adipurush Prabhu made a very interesting point that why do we need sleep? Why? No, life would be so much easier if you could just have more time to be engaged in devotional service. But the sleep is required, and of course the body requires sleep. But then we see these saints, these great personalities, it seems their body also function, although they don't sleep much. And the answer is that what actually, one aspect which needs sleep is the subtle body, and especially the false ego. Because, for the mind also, it's so tiring for the mind and the false ego to deal with the whole material energy and everything, and then it just requires some break. But if you're free from false ego, and the mind has become your friend, and your intelligence is fixed on Krishna, then that requirement is not there. You don't need to sleep so much, because there is no false ego, there is no mind that is disturbing. Then you lay down a little bit to give the body a little rest. But otherwise you're just absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Of course, that's a very high level. Prabhupada showed it, manifested. But that's one aspect, symptoms of Bhava, that the intelligence is always fixed on Krishna. And the perception of oneself, or the identity of oneself, now has, one has, on this platform, one realizes one's Siddha Deha, one's eternal identity. And then yes, there is still the body, and we still act in the world, but actually the bhajan is so much internal that one is aware of one's eternal identity. Very elevated stage, very wonderful. Then it's described Bhava is of two types, that arise from Raga Bhakti and that arising from Vaidhi Bhakti. It's also interesting. And it says here, Bhava arising from Raganuga Bhakti, being excessive in quality, jati, and quantity, pramana. It is very thick or intense. Its trait is total absence of awe and reverence, while the feeling that the Lord is on an equal or lower level predominates. So and as we mentioned, there is sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. And those who attain bhava bhakti, they are coming from the sadhana bhakti. And if the sadhaka has predominantly cultivated raganuga bhakti, and then comes the platform of bhava, then this will be the quality of bhava. But if the devotee has mainly practiced Vaidhi Bhakti, but still comes to the platform, then it's described here, the second type arising from Vaidhi Bhakti being somewhat lesser in quality and quantity than the first, is not as thick or intense. It is marked with affection for the Lord, mixed with knowledge of the Lord's opulence as the Almighty God. And what this actually indicates is that one who follows the path of Vaidhi Bhakti and focus on that without actually going into the levels of Raganuga Bhakti, he can attain Vaikuntha planets, and there he will worship the Lord in awe and reverence. And if one actually wants to enter in Goloka Vrindavan, then he needs to cultivate Raganuga Bhakti. And there, he actually is able to enter in Goloka Vrindavan. Of course, this is a controversial topic, because sometimes then devotees outside of ISKCON, they're kind of, you see, it's written here, Shastras say, and in ISKCON you're only cultivating Vaidhi Bhakti, that's why you will all end up in Vaikuntha at best. And if you really want to go to Krishna, to Goloka Vrindavan, you have to come to our Guru, because he's teaching Raganuga, the real thing. Prabhupada only gave you ABC, and you should come to us because we're teaching you the real stuff. Yeah. So that's there. And that would be an interesting seminar, Raganuga Bhakti in ISKCON. And actually His Holiness Shivaram Maharaj wrote a little book about it. It's a thin book, not very big. And there Maharaj made a statement, how do we actually understand Raganuga Bhakti in ISKCON, how it is practiced. Can very much recommend the book, and maybe we should do a seminar at some point. Of course, it's very elevated subject matter. Spontaneous devotional service, I think something like spontaneous devotional service, and then the subtitle Raganuga Bhakti in ISKCON, something like that. You can find it out and let you know. Yeah, very good book. And I mean, in a nutshell, I didn't prepare this, but in a nutshell, Maharaj describes how Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada were very careful with this topic, and that's why they mainly emphasize on Vaidhi Bhakti. That's what they presented, that's what they gave us. But of course, within Prabhupada's teaching, everything is there you need to progress to Raganuga Bhakti, and there is very rasic purpose by Prabhupada. It's not that everything is there actually in Prabhupada's books. And Maharaj's point is mainly that if a devotee actually makes such advancement that he comes to that levels, then first of all it will be revealed by the holy name. Not that some guru or Baba tells you you're Siddha Deha, but actually the holy name will reveal it to you, and then you may express to your guru and get confirmation by the guru, but it will be revealed from within. And also, even before that stage, I mean much before that stage, if you start to develop an interest in more deeper subject matters of Radha Krishna's pastimes, then this is something which you on a personal level cultivate with like-minded devotees with the permission of your Gurudev, but it's not something which is in the external. It's not a topic for a public lecture. But just because it's not a topic of a public lecture doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in ISKCON. Certainly there are advanced devotees who actually read the books of the Goswamis, who come together, discuss these topics, and cultivate Raganuga Bhakti, also in ISKCON. But it's not something that we advertise outside, and we don't. It's something more of an inner personal life. And even if someone practices Raganuga Bhakti, externally he still will follow all the rules and regulations and behave just like all the other devotees. So there's a lot of misconception what Raganuga Bhakti means and how it is practiced. And certainly Prabhupada gave everything we need, and we can also follow that process and finally reach Goloka Vrindavan. There's no doubt about that. Yes, please. Please, I just wanted to ask for comments and questions.
I had several times arguments with the Buddhism,
Mm-hmm.
about these very topics.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
What you just said, in this court, if you are following forever, you go only to up the most
Vaikuntha. Yeah.
But actually, in reality, I researched a little bit about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
And this what we are practicing basically green mango Raganuga Bhakti right now.
That's a very nice analogy, yeah.
Right now we are practicing, we are not worshipping Lakshmi Narayana with mantras, we're worshipping actually Radha Krishna in the forest of Vrindavan. We read Krishna book. Just this basic thing. We're reading Krishna book, we're chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, which is, not different from Krishna, not different from Radha Krishna. And we're worshiping Lord Chaitanya, who is Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya Radha Krishna. So we are not in reality practicing Vaidhi Bhakti as it is in the Shastras, the rules, the regulations to achieve Vaikuntha with awe and reverence. But we are not ripe yet enough to practice actually, but we are practicing remembering.
Yeah. Thank you for
it brings results.
Yeah, there's a beautiful analogy with the green mango, ripe mango. It's still a mango. It's not yet mature, but it is a mango. And it will mature just in due course of time if we stick to the process and follow. And it's very obvious. I mean, Srila Prabhupada is a Brijbasi himself, I mean, from different levels. I mean, he's a Brijbasi. He came to give us, as you said, Krishna book in the very beginning. So certainly Prabhupada wanted to give us the highest. It's not that Prabhupada wanted to send us all to Vaikuntha. Prabhupada wanted to, gave us the highest and wanted us to go to Vrindavan. So certainly Prabhupada gave everything what is needed, required to attain. Otherwise, actually, it's a blasphemy. It's this statement to say that Prabhupada didn't give everything and something is missing. This is not proper.
Just thinking of the last song that Prabhupada gave us for the Bhakti is the Tulsi Puja.
Tulsi Puja, yes. Right, every morning we express that desire. Yeah, very good point. Every morning we do it. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
The first is, I hear already on the level of Nishta, we can have studies of our eternal identity.
Yes, yeah. I also heard that. That means from the level of Nishta and further, we may get some glimpse or some idea of our eternal form, but that eternal we may not have all the details, like what is my name and what is my service and how my dress looks like and everything. But maybe I get a certain first idea that I'm my Manchari or my Gopa. So an idea comes. And then we may, under the guidance of Guru, we may cultivate and read more about the followers. Because Raganuga Bhakti means we follow the Ragatmika. Now there is the Ragatmika Bhaktas, the eternal associates, and then when we realize to which associates we feel attracted towards, then we start to cultivate the meditation. So there's some general idea that will be there, but only at the stage of Bhava, as far as I understand. Maybe I'm mistaken, but certainly there it becomes crystal clear in detail the personal identity.
My second question is, make our devotion here, we should follow some sadhakas, some rich paths in the spiritual world. And yet, when we follow Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya, this is like we follow the rich path.
Yeah, in that sense also. I mean, of course, the Raganuga Bhakti is a very specific meditation about a certain mood from these Prishpasis. But yeah, in a more broader sense, of course, if we follow Srila Prabhupada, we follow, and Prabhupada is about also Rupa Nuga, we follow Srila Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manchari. I mean, how much more you want to be connected with Vrindavan. And Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada gave us a preaching mission, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Chaitanya Prabhu said, is Radha Krishna. And that's what I remember Bhakti Charu Maharaj always emphasized this point. His explanation was that when we actually engaged in Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan mission and doing preaching, we're also doing Raganuga Bhakti in the sense that we're following the personalities like Prabhupada and Srila Rupa Goswami by preaching Sankirtan mission. Of course, preaching is one thing, and then the inner cultivation also needs to be there. But still, by that preaching activity and by that missionary work, we get so much blessings. And that blessings will be required once we actually come closer to these levels and deepen our sadhana. Then, because our whole life we have served in the Sankirtan mission, certainly there will be blessings and things will be revealed. So that's a beautiful, understanding or meditation. Also, okay, now I'm serving in a mission. I'm dedicating my life, and then more and more I'm more and more purified. I'm able to absorb, and certainly blessings will be there to understand the deeper topics. There's many stories also from devotees who are about to leave their body, and within a couple of months, and at the end of their life, all of a sudden they go in such deep meditations and have such deep realizations, because just so much mercy is coming. Okay, so then I think we continue. So that was one aspect with Vaidya and Raganuga. And here, then another interesting example is given. As the juices of mango, jackfruit, sugarcane, or grapes differ in thickness, like jackfruit, mango is like more thick, and then grapes is more thin. So there are different degrees of sweetness of Bhava. Okay, different kind of Bhava, and there is also different sweetness of Bhava. Thus the devotee are of 5 kinds according to their bhava. And then we have the 5 rasas. Shanta and Hasa, Sakya. Here it says Pitrisur, Vatsalya and Preyasis or Madhurya. And then of course we know these are the 5 different kind of rasas that we can have with the Lord. And according to what kind of rasa we have, then the bhava is also more sweet. And this is beautifully described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that actually a devotee who has attained certain perfection, he would never feel that he misses something. No, if someone is just in the dasya ras, it's not that he feels a lack or something. No, for him this is perfection, and he's completely fully satisfied. And Krishna is super satisfied with his service. So on one transcendental level, all these rasas are equally perfect. And at the same time, Madhurya rasa is most sweet because all other rasas are included and it's the most intimate. So again, it's same and different at the same time. We could say more about that, but in general, that's the ending statement from this chapter. The Shruti texts define the Lord as the very essence of rasa, rasa svarupa, raso vaisa, rasam hi evayam labdvanadi bhavati. The Lord is a rasa itself, and attaining that rasa, the jiva becomes blissful. Though water is present in all streams, river and ponds, still the ocean is the great reservoir of all water. So too, a rasa is present in all the avatars of the Lord, and the source of avatars, avatari, but does not reach perfection in any of them. Rather, it attains its absolute climax in Vrajendra Nanda Krishna, the son of the king of Vraj. So when Bhava matures and begins to ripen into Pream, then that very Vrajendra Nanda, rasa personified, is directly realized by these qualified devotees. Thus ends the description of Bhava in the Madhurya Kadambini. So that brings us then to Prema, but that we will discuss tomorrow. And I just have also a few statements from the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita about Bhava, since there is also a lot of description are there. We have a definition of Bhava. It says here that part of Bhakti is called Bhava, whose essence is Samvit and Ladini Shakti, which is one ray of the sun of Pream, which will soon rise in the heart, and which softens the heart with a desire to meet, serve, and exchange love with the Lord. So we mentioned Shuddha Sattva means, Bhava means one attains this Shuddha Sattva. So then basically what it means that one enters Shuddha Sattva, the heart will be touched by the Samvit and Ladini Shakti of the Lord, and that causes the heart to be softened. Our heart becomes soft, more soft. And it's described that the heart becomes as soft as butter, and Krishna is a butter thief, makanchor. When the heart becomes very soft, then Krishna can steal it. So the whole process of bhakti is meant to soften our heart. And just Radha Madhava Prabhu, you showed that video of that. What was the name? The Baba in Varshana? Madan Mohan Baba. It suits now. Madan Mohan Baba with a broom, and he sings Radhe Radhe, and it's so amazing. I mean, I find it so amazing. If you see these bridge bosses, you can they're so sweet. Like they have such a sweetness. Like you can feel they have such a soft heart. They're like children, isn't it? And the process of bhakti is meant to soften our heart. That's why also it says that just renunciation and jnana even can harden the heart. You can develop a heart if you just focus on renunciation and knowledge. But the process of bhakti actually is supposed to make our heart more and more soft. And what does it mean to have a soft heart? It means that the desire to meet, serve, and exchange love with Krishna becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. That's a beautiful description given there. Okay, that's what we just heard. It gives rise to various tastes, or the desire to achieve Krishna, the desire to please Krishna, and the desire to be close at the heart with Krishna. These are some desires that come up when the heart becomes more soft. And two ways to achieve Bhava. One by practice, we spoke about sadhana bhakti, Bhava bhakti, Prema bhakti, so that's one way, practice. But there is another one, there is mercy of Krishna and his devotees. And what example is given? Someone remembers? Prabhupada gives an example in this regard. That, if you want to have a PhD, either you go to the university and you study, and then you do your study, and then you get your PhD after years of study and hard work. And that's the normal way, how to get a PhD. But sometimes the university, just out of the blue, they award someone a PhD title. Not out of the blue, because they see that this person has all the qualities required to possess such title, although the person actually has not gone through the study. That the university has that right to give someone a PhD title. I believe that Arnold Schwarzenegger, you remember Arnold Schwarzenegger? Because he's not only an Hollywood star, but he's also a politician and very active in many different fields. And he got, I forgot in which field, but he got some doctor title, a PhD title from a university.
After Bhava Swami got an honorable PhD in Mongolia.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's amazing. Oh, our own devotees also. Yeah, it's nice. No, that's so nice. A university just recognizes you're such a qualified person, such a nice person. We give you the title. So that's the analogy which is given, that Krishna, you're such a nice devotee. I award you Bhava. It can also happen. But Prabhupada emphasizes it is more wise to do the study and do the work and try our best. Not just wait, I'm such a nice devotee, I'm sure Krishna will just give it to me. But it is described that this is also possible. And of course, in one way we understand it's anyway both. It's our endeavor and it's Krishna's mercy. We can't just by our sadhana, our own endeavor, we never can attain Bhava. It is ultimately always Krishna's mercy. But by our endeavor we show our sincerity. That's the idea. And then it comes an important topic. The Bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, 8 physical symptoms of softened heart, the Ashta Sattvika Vikar. And Prabhupada speaks about this. We have heard about becoming stunned, perspiration, standing up of the bodily hair, flattening of the voice, trembling, changing color, shedding tears, appearing devastated. These are some external symptoms. And of course, usually Vaishnavas, even very advanced Vaishnavas, they would try to hide such emotions. It's not that they publicly display such emotions. Of course, we know in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when you read Mahaprabhu's pastimes, the Lord manifested to the greatest extent. Mahaprabhu manifested all kind of ecstatic symptoms. And we also know of pastimes with Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada sometimes just was carried away. There is several instances where Prabhupada was Jayoradha Madhava, starting singing in a class, and then just it's such a beautiful song describing the Lord and Vrindavan, Mother Yashoda. So Prabhupada just entered into some state of ecstasy, and then just at some point just dropped the kartals and walked off and went to the room. No Bhagavatam class that morning. And then I think one devotee asked Prabhupada, what should we do when you enter in such ecstasy? I think Prabhupada chant Hare Krishna, which what they also did, like they just, okay, But so of course Prabhupada never would want to, but sometimes it just happens. And there is other examples. I mean, there is examples in scriptures, and there is example also in our own ISKCON tradition, and maybe not so often mentioned and spoken about, but I like to just mention that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he just got sannyas. He was a young sannyasi, 79. He was in Mayapur. There was some event, and there was a kirtan, and Maharaj just collapsed. And then they brought him to his room. And he stayed in a condition which nobody could understand of this for months. Months. Yeah. And they asked doctors to come, and they checked, and they brought some how you call them, tantric to. They thought maybe he's hunted by a ghost or something, And then there was Krishna Das Babaji, who was close to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada openly declared that he's a pure devotee. He came there and he laughed. He said, "But this is just symptoms of Bhava." And there is Lagudi, is a devotee who was a servant at that time, and he spent all this time with him. You can find on YouTube. He tells, that's what happened there. It was amazing, And then at some point, Maharaj just came back, and then he asked, "Oh, how long did I sleep?" And the servant said, "Maharaj, you were absent. I forgot exactly, but 2 months. 2 months. Maharaj, since 2 months you were absent." Just like, And it's described, his personality was changed afterwards. He was much more stronger, and his preaching became very powerful. So, this is not just Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is actually happening. And that's why, these retreats who say there is no pure devotees and so, such also an offense to Prabhupada, how can they dare to say that Prabhupada was not able to, have disciples who attain the highest platform? Why not? Prabhupada was a pure devotee. Certainly, he can, empower his disciples to also attain high platforms. And we see today we have so many amazing gurus and sannyasis in ISKCON who certainly have attained very high levels. Anyhow, so these are the Bhava symptoms, but the difficulty or the challenge with this is that these symptoms, of course, could be imitated, and they are imitated by some sahajiyas in India, and that's why the Srila Rupa Goswami gives other characteristics which are a little more difficult to imitate. And there are 8. He's always anxious to utilize his time in devotional service. He's always reserved and perseverant. He's always detached from material attraction. He does not long for any material respect. He's always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. He's always eager to serve the Lord, very attached to chanting, eager to hear Krishna Katha, and he always is eager to live in a holy place. And that are symptoms of Bhava, which are not so easy to, you can't just imitate, Oh, I'm so attached to the holy name. It's more difficult to imitate. And I did want to go into all of these in detail, but our time is running out. So, what should we do? Well, we still have 7 minutes. Maybe we just go through it. So he's always anxious to utilize his time in devotional service of the Lord. He does not like to be idle. He wants service always, 24 hours a day, without deviation. That's a dream of every temple commander. He, devotee of Bhava platform, he always wants to do service. Please engage me in service. Can I do something? There's a devotee in New York, a Prabhupada disciple. His name is also Atipurusha. Someone you know him? Prabhupada disciple. He's organizing Food for Life at the Tompkins Square Park. He's cooking, and every day he's distributing very nice prasadam to the. So, and he has a motto. He always says, "How wonderful is Krishna! let us serve him. No, if you spend, I don't know, 20 minutes, he will at least 2-3 times he will say this. That's just, when you're with him, he's super enthusiastic. I mean, obviously a very advanced devotee, and he always makes this point. How wonderful is Krishna? Let us serve him. And somehow I found it so amazing, and you really believe it, like because he's engaged and he has such enthusiasm. And it's such a nice point, like how wonderful is our Lord. Let us do some service. So on the platform of Bhava, one will be so enthusiastic and certainly one doesn't want to, lose any time, because time is so precious and this time should be given to Krishna. That's one symptom. Then he's perseverant. When a person is undisturbed even in the presence of various causes of disturbance, he is called reserved or perseverant. And she'll probably give the example of Parikshit Maharaj. Like you get cursed and within 7 days you will die and this flying snake will bite you and kill you. How would you feel? But he was quite sober in the sense that he said, okay, now what is the duty at the end of my life? And he just sat down and listened from the sadhus, Shukadev Goswami. So he's an example of a person who remained sober even in very difficult position. Then he's always detached from all material attraction. The senses are always desiring sense enjoyment, but when a devotee develops transcendental love for Krishna, his senses are no longer attracted to material desires. This state of mind is called detachment. And the example is given Bharat Maharaj. Of course, this picture shows him how he again deviates. So it's not a proper, I didn't find another picture. But the statement or the example of Bharat refers to before that. Okay, and there is a shloka, and it says, Emperor Bharat was so attracted by the beauty of the lotus feet of Krishna that even in his youthful life he gave up all kinds of attachments to family, children, friends, kingdom, etc., as though they were untouchable stools. It's quite a heavy statement. Like if you're in a bathroom and then you flush, you say? You don't feel that, oh my God, I lost something. No, like you flush, it's gone, and you're happy, it's gone. So that kind of renunciation to that which is most dear to you, your family, your kingdom, your possession, most dear, and you're able to let it go in a similar way, that's like, wow, that's detachment. So that's like the level of a detachment which is there. It's a bit a gross example, but that's Bhagavatam. And then he does not long for any material respect in return for his activities, which is also a sign of humility. Prabhupada explains humility means to not hanker for admiration. And the example here is given Lal Babu, who was a great landlord from Calcutta, became a Vaishnava, and when he built a temple, and we know this temple, Lal Babu temple, we can visit in Vrindavan, he personally collected, and it says he went even to his political enemies from his previous life as a landlord. He went everywhere and just begged, without considering who is there and what people will say. He's always certain that Krishna will bestow up his mercy upon him. So this ashabandha, hope against hope, because I'm trying my best to follow the routine principle of devotional service, I'm sure that I will go back to God, back to home. That hope will always be there. That's another symptom. And he's always very eager to serve the Lord faithfully. And here we have this term, Samutkanta. I know a devotee, her name is Samutkanta Devidasi. It's a nice name, Samutkanta. Samutkanta means complete eagerness. Complete eagerness. Another symptom, and example is Bilva Mangala Thakur, who was very much attached to the prostitute, but then finally realized and then was searching for Krishna. and was very did severe severe penances, but finally attained Krishna because of his eagerness. Then he's very much attached to chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And here is an example given is Radharani. By one of the associates of Radharani. Lord Govinda, the girl who is the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, is now shedding tears and she's anxiously chanting your holy name, Krishna, Krishna. And he's always eager to describe the transcendental qualities, so he has a great taste. Here is expressed in the Krishna Karnamrita. What shall I do for Krishna, who is pleasing beyond all pleasurable conception and who is naughtier than all restless boys? The idea of Krishna's beautiful activities is attracting my heart, and I do not know what I can do. Completely absorbed in Krishna Katha, and finally he loves to live in a holy place. So these are the 9 characteristics of Bhava that are described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami, and these indications are a bit more, relevant for us because the ecstatic symptoms, it's first of all very rare, and it can be imitated, and that's why these also need to be considered if one wants to understand the platform of Bhava. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Then we have tomorrow at 5 o'clock the last session on Prema.